Tomlinson.
Mr Deputy Speaker, and it's a real pleasure to respond to this very proactive, very constructive debate, and the majority of speakers, till the very last two, stuck to the spirit of this incredibly important subject, for which I know that they worked incredibly hard to get this vital debate secured through the backbench business debate. And first of all, to the honourable member for East Lothian, yes, yes and yes. How about that? I mean, there's not many debates, Mr Deputy Speaker, that you as a minister can come and just agree totally and wholeheartedly. And I had a stroke of luck, because on Saturday a red box was dispatched to my house, and we knew this debate was coming up. 3,500 word draft speech was prepared. There was a whole load of briefing, what subjects would be covered. And I thought the best thing to do in this situation is pop the kettle on, have a cup of tea, and look at something else to do first. And as I looked at something else, I found an invite to the All-Party Parliamentary Group on this very subject on Tuesday. So as a matter of luck, I was able to attend a brilliant All-Party Parliamentary Group and actually discuss exactly what would be coming forward. And then further luck came forward as the various areas of priority for us were then connected to three further meetings I had later in the week prior to this debate. And I will be covering all of those in a little bit more detail. And I think there is a huge amount of respect, Mr Deputy Speaker, for the honourable member for East Lothian, who has built a brilliant reputation in this area for a long time, both as a former, before he came to the House, and in the House, widely respected. And he's absolutely right to recognise the progress since the Equality Act came in 2010. And I do pay tribute to the party opposite for their work in that area. And rightly, our government, and I'm sure all future governments, will continue to work with stakeholders to build on that incredibly important step. And it does make a real difference. And the honourable member's right to highlight that we need to improve awareness. And I'm very acutely aware when he raised that 93% of people who challenge feel they are doing the right thing. I want to stand up for those who are marginalised in society. And I think it was summed up. I saw an incident where somebody was parked in a disabled parking space with a blue badge, and they had a disabled autistic daughter, and they then received abuse. And that wasn't a one-off. I'm sure this happens all over the place. And as that stat, 93% of those people who challenge probably feel they are trying to do the right thing. But because of a lack of awareness, because of the additional challenges of hidden disabilities, society is creating awkwardness, it's putting people off, and it is impacting on people's lives. And I will come on to grace the inspiration. But first of all, I shall just whiz through some of the excellent speeches and respond to them directly. My honourable friend for Chatham and Aylesford, who has done brilliant work, both in her constituency with the Partnership Board and actually in her former role as everybody's favourite sports minister. And we worked very carefully together when I was last a disability minister, pushing organisations like the Premier League, who to their credit were very, very proactive, with Richard Scudamore, the departing chief executive, who took a personal interest in improving disability access within the Premier League. And as the sports minister, I could not have asked for more support in that area. And she's absolutely right to highlight the importance of the Special Olympics. And the point that I really picked up on was just how happy people are in all of the visits. In 19 years as an MP, minister and a councillor, nothing comes close to the joy I saw when I went to a learning disability netball session. I literally thought the young adults were going to explode with excitement. And I'm glad she also took time to highlight the work of my honourable friend for Daventry, who's done a huge amount in this area as well. Now, the honourable member for Newport West, who is really making a good impression since her recent addition to the House. We are all benefiting, and this is the second debate that I've responded to where she has contributed. She brings real-life experience in this area, particularly in the area of strokes. And I think it was really important to highlight that. And she does remind people about the importance of that we're doing this because some people will need extra time and space, and that is crucial. My honourable friend for Ayr, Carrick and Cumnock, who did a brilliant Westminster Hall debate just a few weeks ago, carried on in the same form that not every disability is visible. And he was right to highlight that there isn't an immense cost to make a real difference in this area, and that came through in many of those speeches, and I will again cover that in more detail. And the honourable member for Ellesmere Port and Weston, who, again, through the experiences, the direct experiences of his wife, He raised some incredibly important points around access to work, around sanctions in those areas, and I know he's raised them before in other debates, and he always does it in a constructive manner. And to try and keep to the spirit of the debate, I am keen that I will now offer a personal meeting with him so we can explore these in more detail than perhaps where I'd be able to give justice at the moment. My honourable friend for Cheadle, absolutely right to highlight challenges within public transport, and I know she's worked tirelessly in that area, and also around the issue of the assistance dogs, for which the British Guide Dogs have been one of the best campaigning charities and most visible on this particular issue, particularly around the misunderstanding of what taxi drivers should or shouldn't be doing and how we can tighten up things within licensing. And she's also right to highlight the brilliance of medical dogs who can smell certain conditions, the equivalent of one particle within a swimming pool. Absolutely amazing. And also what a difference we can make in the retail environment, which I will cover just a bit later on. Obviously, the Honourable Member for Washington and Sunderland West and the Honourable Member for Lanark and Hamilton East perhaps didn't quite follow the spirit of the debate, one of the challenges of arriving with a pre-written speech. But I would gently say that we are actually spending £55 billion a year supporting those with long-term health conditions and disabilities, which is a record amount, up £10 billion. That DLA, only 16% of claimants had the highest rate of support compared to 32% under PIP. Disability employment at a record high, and our target of 1 million by 2027. After 2 years, we're at 440,000 for the first time. As I said in the earlier intervention, we have more disabled people in work than not in work, but still more to do, and specifically about within the job centres for those with autism. I am very grateful for the work of Autism Alliance and Autism UK, who helped create the toolkit. Now again, to keep in with the spirit of that debate, I am happy to meet both to discuss all of those issues in detail, but I wish to keep to the theme, which was let me just keep to the spirit of this debate, because this debate has happened because of Grace Warnock, a truly inspirational superstar who we know had a fantastic teacher, and who I'm sure can take some credit for starting this brilliant journey. A young, amazing person dealing with the challenges of Crohn's disease, who was targeted with abuse because of her hidden disability. And understandably, many people, including many of us, would have shied away. And I'm sure day in, day out, people are standing away. But she stood her ground, and she has made a difference. And we should all celebrate her courage. And I'm very proud that she was awarded the Prime Minister's Point of Light Award in 2018, the very least that we can collectively do to celebrate her brilliance. And it is absolutely right that her energy, enthusiasm and ideas have to drive us forward. And we were all sent a briefing by Sense, and in their briefing they summed up why we should listen carefully to Grace. And that is because many public facilities are not currently fully accessible. Many people have multiple complex and or invisible disabilities and require greater support and accessibility in order to access the local community. But these facilities are often not provided. Change could include the invisible disability sign, but would also include greater changing places provisions, improved accessible public transport and greater staff awareness of people working in public places. The greater provision of such facilities would lead to better inclusion and also help improve attitudes towards disabled people. And Mr Deputy Speaker, every one of us in here would agree with every word of that. And that brings me on to the APPG meeting that I attended only yesterday. And it was fantastic, cross-party support, and some really, really impressive individuals making a difference in an area that the Honourable Member rightly highlighted is complex. We all agree that we want to see Grace's sign be the stepping stone to improved signage that is internationally recognised. But it's not simple. As ever, everything in the political environment takes a little bit longer than perhaps we would like. To get international recognition of a new symbol involves a process with various stages, from the initial proposals through to consensus building, public consultation and publication. It can take a number of years, but that does make sure that when it's done, it is done properly and is long-standing. And in our country, the BSI, the UK National Standards Body, they work to make sure to, in effect, audit and approve before it is then considered by the International Organisation for Standardisation. And I was thrilled that the APPG, which was giving an update and a presentation on the work that's being done, that the BSI were fully involved and fully supportive. And it's right to highlight those beyond the MPs of the APPG who've done so much work. Lucy Richards, the designer, who has taken Grace's idea and taken it on to the next level, stellar, international stellar levels. And I was incredibly impressed. As having run a marketing company, it gave me a warm glow to remember the joys of looking at designs. The support from Life Changes through Anna Buchan, who provided the funding needed to carry out that extensive work. And user experts with Dr. Gordon Hayward and Steve Milton, and also Robert Turpin from the BSI. So we had all of the movers and shakers making sure that actually this is being fully road tested. So when we are ready to take it to the International Standards Organisation, it will tick all of the boxes. And I thank the Honourable Member for Newport West, Broxtowe, Rhondda, Ayr and Carrick and Cumnock, who are all present and supportive of that vital work. And I will certainly do everything I can to support that going forward. Now, I did say, Mr Deputy Speaker, that I was lucky with the other meetings that came up, because this week I was meeting various sector champions who are helping to represent all of us to challenge those particular areas to do more, highlight best practice and to do more. And the first one of those was Samantha Sen of the retail sector champion, and many of the speakers have talked about the importance of getting it right in retail. And it sums up that this is a win-win. This isn't just for those with hidden disabilities, but if retailers can get it right, they can access the combined spending power of disabled people, which is at £249 billion. Those 13 million disabled people have considerable spending power. And 75% of disabled people and their families have left a shop because of poor customer service. And I don't believe there is a single retailer who wakes up in the morning and says, I want to turn away business. I don't think on any of our visits have we ever had a retailer saying, do you know, I've got too much business, please do less. So I had the pleasure this morning of speaking and opening the retail forum, which many of the leading retailers and estate owners, the British Lands, the Crown Estates, were present. And they absolutely buy into this. They have a real appetite for sharing of best practice. And it's being channeled through the Purple Tuesday campaign that I know many, many MPs support. The 12th of November, where we do a real, genuine focus. And when they initially set that scheme up, they expected 70 retailers to be involved. It actually was over 700, and this year they're expecting it to be over 900. And it is making a difference in the retail area. And I commend all of those retailers for being so engaged. I also met with Stephen Brooke, who is our transport sector champion. Many people will have worked with him on his brilliant work to do with tackling hate crime, disability hate crime, that made a real difference to the government's way of going forward. And he has a real expertise, initially starting with challenges within the Blackpool buses and then spreading out to rail and buses across the whole country. And this was amazing. Part the way through our conversation, I said, I'd been to an all-party parliamentary group beginning to look at how we can improve signage. And one of the things I would like you to do is to actually meet with those members of the APPG group to give your expertise. And he said, I've got something to show you. I have seen a sign that is amazing. And he brought out the sign that was being presented at the all-party parliamentary group. And he has confirmed he would be delighted to support the work of the APPG. And it will build on the government's new inclusive transport strategy to create a transport system that provides equal access for disabled people by 2030. It's a really, really important area, because disabled people should be able to travel confidently, easily and without extra cost. And I also welcomed, he reassured me that over the last 3 years there's been a complete shift, particularly with the rail companies and the providers such as Network Rail, that with any of their major improvements, it has to go through their built environment access panel, for which there is a pan-disability group, to make sure they get it right, and they get it right for everyone, and they get it right at the beginning, because it's a lot easier to do it then than to retrospectively fix it. And I was encouraged that there are so many of the providers who have understood the importance of this. I also met with Andrew Miller, who's our arts and culture sector champion. And he again talked about the huge progress that's being made in our cultural venues and our live music venues. And I pay tribute to Attitudes is Everything, one of my favourite charities that make live music venues accessible. When I was first a disability minister and I insisted having a picture of them, I remember officials airbrushed out the pint glasses that the members of Attitude Everything were enjoying as part of their evening entertainment, saying it probably wasn't right for a ministerial wall, which I got recorrected and it was put back in place. And I understand the importance of this, having been my first graduate job as a nightclub manager and having a fully accessible venue, that you could attract businesses. I know there's not many, Mr. Deputy Speaker, who could say. The Deputy Speaker suggested that maybe that's because I liked dancing. It was actually why I was probably a manager, because I probably wasn't very good at dancing. We talked in detail about how all of these venues, which an individual may only visit once or twice, what more they can do, and many now put a lot of additional information in advance on their website so users can check. Because what people do not want to do, if you are disabled, is travel all the way to a venue and be left red-faced when the facilities aren't accessible. And I had a look on a website which in theory was very good practice, and it said, for example, free admission for carers or helpers, free loan of a wheelchair or a motorised scooter, personalised guiding scheme for unoccupied disabled people, long as booked in advance, subtitle video and large print available, low-level counters, the induction loop system, guide, hearing and assistant dogs were welcome. But there wasn't a single point of contact. And that is probably the most important thing that any retailer, leisure provider can do, is actually make it crystal clear. Because those with disabilities don't fit into a neat box. Everybody has their own unique challenges. And to be able to talk it through and know where to go to if there is a problem can make a real difference and can benefit all of those facilities who can then tap those 13 million customers with their £249 billion. And finally, I met with Hugh Edwards, who's our physical activity and leisure sector champion. And as my honourable member for Chatterford and Aylesford highlighted the importance of sport, I do pay tribute to Sport England for doing lots more to focus on opportunities for those with disabilities, recognising the importance of sport and physical activity for disabled people through the Sporting Future strategy. And I do welcome that we are seeing increases in activity. Again, still lots more to do. But it's right that we promote opportunities. It's right we share best practice. And so many want to do more, but they need that information. Now, Mr. Deputy Speaker, in conclusion, as my initial remarks of the triple yes, I am keen to do everything I can as quickly as possible to get this. I was blown away yesterday when I saw those designs. The right balance of the imagery, dealing with all of the competing demands across the pan-disability spectrum, and also getting the more detail with the words, I think it will make a real difference. And as was said, not all things have to cost a huge amount of money, and on this particular issue, everybody will do everything they can to make sure Grace's brave stand really does make a difference, not just here in the UK, but internationally. And Mr. Deputy Speaker, it has been a real pleasure on such a constructive and positive debate. Parliament is at its best today.
Martin Whitfield.
I'm grateful, Mr. Deputy Speaker, and it is right to say that we've seen Parliament at its best today.